The president, the vice president, and their allies have continued to call all the protesters out there insurrectionists. Yes, this is the same man who provoked an actual insurrection at our Capitol on January 6th. The same man who incited a violent mob carrying Confederate flags against Congress. The same man who then pardoned the convicted felons who assaulted our brave Capitol police officers. Donald Trump is continuing to test the boundaries of his power, and he's surrounded himself with yes men and underqualified attack dogs, from the DHS secretary to the FBI director to the Secretary of Defense, who will rubber stamp every anti-democratic step he takes.
Ladies and gentlemen, patriots of this great republic, welcome back to Founding Voice America. If you love this country, believe in the Constitution, and stand for truth, then you're in the right place. Because today, we are going to cut through the lies, propaganda, and emotional manipulation being hurled at us by the radical left. I just sat through one of the most absurd, fear-mongering, hypocritical speeches I've seen in a while. You know the kind where the left throws around words like fascism, authoritarianism, and insurrection like candy at a parade, while conveniently forgetting the chaos, lawlessness, and destruction they themselves have incited in our cities. But buckle up, folks, because we're going to expose this script line by line and break it down from the lens of real, constitutional, God-fearing American patriots. So here's the setup. The speaker, one of these usual suspects from the Democrat side, is on a self-righteous rant, painting President Trump as the villain of history. He provoked an insurrection, they say. He pardoned criminals, they cry. He's surrounding himself with yes men, they moan. What they're really mad about, folks, is that Donald J. Trump was the first president in decades to actually stand up to the swamp, to challenge the globalists, the career bureaucrats, and the corrupt media-industrial complex that thrives on controlling you. Let me tell you something. January 6th was not an insurrection. An insurrection involves organized, armed attempts to overthrow a government. What happened was a chaotic protest, one that spiraled out of control, yes. But to compare that to Pearl Harbor or 9/11, as some Democrats have done, is not just dishonest, it's disgusting. But it gets worse. This speaker has the audacity to claim Trump is testing the limits of his power. Really? This from the same side that locked us in our homes, shut down our churches, forced our children into masks and Zoom classes, and threatened to fire you from your job if you didn't take a government-mandated jab? You want to talk about authoritarianism? Look in the mirror, leftists. Now, they're claiming Trump is using immigrants as political pawns. That's rich coming from the party that bussed illegal immigrants into red states, gave them hotel rooms, and then shoved the cost onto American taxpayers. They don't want border security. They want votes. They want cheap labor. And they're willing to sacrifice American sovereignty, safety, and culture to get it. They whine that if Trump can deploy the National Guard, then he can supposedly do it to suppress your rights. News flash: the National Guard exists for national emergencies. When Democrat-led cities are burning down from Antifa riots, looting, and arson, when police are being ambushed and federal buildings are under siege, someone has to step in and restore law and order. But these people don't want law and order. They want chaos. They thrive on fear, division, and disorder, because that's the environment in which Marxism grows.
That notwithstanding, the president, the vice president, and their allies have continued to call all the protesters out there insurrectionists. Yes, this is the same man who provoked an actual insurrection at our Capitol on January 6th. The same man who incited a violent mob carrying Confederate flags against Congress. The same man who then pardoned the convicted felons who assaulted our brave Capitol police officers. Donald Trump is continuing to test the boundaries of his power, and he's surrounded himself with yes men and underqualified attack dogs, from the DHS secretary to the FBI director to the Secretary of Defense, who will rubber stamp every anti-democratic step he takes. This administration's officials, and maybe not all, but many Republicans in Congress, may choose not to do their job, but they cannot stop me from doing mine. And I refuse to let immigrants be political pawns on his path towards fascism. Again, if you really think this is just about immigrants and immigration, it's time to wake up. What's happening is not just a threat to California, it's a threat to everyone in every state. If Donald Trump can bypass the governor and activate the National Guard to put down protests on immigrant rights, he can do it to suppress your rights too. If he can deploy the Marines to Los Angeles without justification, he can deploy them to your state too. And if he can ignore due process, strip away First Amendment rights, and disappear people to foreign prisons without their day in court, he can do it to you too. Because California is just a test case for the rest of the country. Last week, for many, was a warning shot, but I pray that it also serves as a wake-up call. We've now seen, since Thursday, we've now seen Trump threaten to do the same in other cities run by elected Democrats. He's saying the quiet part out loud. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent. We all have a responsibility to speak up and to push back before it's too late. So I do encourage people to keep peacefully protesting. There's nothing more patriotic than to peacefully protest for your rights. Because no one's going to liberate Los Angeles but Angelenos. No one will redeem America but Americans. No one is coming to save us but us. And we know that the cameras are not on in every corner of the country. But if this administration is this afraid of just one senator with a question, colleagues, imagine what the voices of tens of millions of Americans peacefully protesting can do. I thank you all for being here to hear me, and I thank you, Mr. President.
Our founding fathers warned us about this. They warned us about the slow creep of tyranny disguised as virtue. Today, the left wraps itself in the language of liberty, democracy, rights, justice, but underneath it's all about power. It's always been about power. They act like due process is under threat. But where was their outrage when Trump supporters were locked in solitary confinement for months without trial? Where was their outrage when parents at school board meetings were labeled domestic terrorists? Where was their concern when big tech silenced doctors, veterans, and everyday Americans for simply asking questions? I'll tell you where it was, buried under their hypocrisy. And now they say California is just a test case. That, for once, might be the only true thing they said. California is a test case, but not for Trump. It's a test case for what happens when radical left policies go unchecked. Sky-high crime, homelessness exploding, businesses fleeing, taxes choking the middle class, that is their utopia. And now they're warning other cities might be next? Good. Maybe other cities need a dose of real leadership. Maybe Chicago, New York, Portland, and Baltimore need someone to finally say, enough. We're going to put American citizens first. We're going to clean up the streets, support the police, defend our borders, and take back our cities from the anarchists. And then they beg people to keep protesting peacefully. Oh, you mean like the mostly peaceful riots in 2020 that caused over $2 billion in damage? Spare me the crocodile tears. Listen, I believe in the First Amendment. I support peaceful protest. It's a cornerstone of this republic. But when the left says peaceful protest, what they really mean is their protest. When it's truckers in Canada, parents at school boards, or Christians standing for life, they call it extremism. The double standard is outrageous. But here's the truth they don't want you to hear. You are the firewall between freedom and tyranny. Not the media. Not Congress. Not the unelected elites at the World Economic Forum. You, the American patriot who still believes in God, family, country, and liberty. No one is coming to save us? Wrong. We the people are still here. We haven't gone anywhere. And we aren't backing down. Not now. Not ever. We will defend this nation, peacefully, lawfully, and relentlessly, from the lies of the left, the overreach of the government, and the erosion of our freedoms. We are not insurrectionists. We are constitutionalists. We are not fascists. We are patriots. We are not going away. We are just getting started. So to the radical left, we see through your lies. We reject your fear tactics. And we will never, ever surrender our God-given rights. And to my fellow Americans, stand strong. Speak boldly. Do not be intimidated by the noise. Because truth is on our side. History is on our side. And freedom is worth fighting for. This is Founding Voice America, and we're here to raise the voice of the people louder than the lies of the elites. If you believe in this message, subscribe, share, and most importantly, stand up. Because no one will redeem America but Americans. And we are still the land of the free, because we are still the home of the brave.